Assalamu alaikum to all our viewers across Africa as we welcome you to the beautiful studios of MTA International in London. In today's edition of Contemplation, we look at yet another very important issue, that is Caliphate in Islam. A Caliph is a person considered a successor to the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on him. And then looking at the pristine attributes of the Holy Prophet, one expects a Caliph to represent, project, and magnify the character of the Holy Prophet. Unfortunately, most of those who claim legitimacy to this title have not only disunited, disoriented, and disintegrated the Muslim front, but have contributed to the increasing perception of Islam as a violent religion. There are currently numerous caliphates, with ISIS claiming to be one. Let's look at ingredients of a true caliphate and whether Islam currently has a rightly guided caliph based on the Quran. Before I introduce my guest, let's watch this short intro.
The so-called government or state that has been established by ISIS is not only committing the most reprehensible and barbaric acts of cruelty, but is doing so in the name of Islam. This is a cause of extreme sorrow for true Muslims, as they know that such heinous acts have no link whatsoever to their religion.
So joining me in the studio is Jahangir Kanjangra. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
What is a caliphate? Based on my intro, you could see a back and forth, based on the perception that people have about the caliphate. It's been negative, though we know that a true caliph should project the true teachings of Islam. What is a caliphate?
Well, the caliphate, which is usually meant when we speak of a caliph, one who has a caliphate, is a person, as you rightly pointed out, who is a successor to the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings of God be upon him. And so it means somebody who is going to replace him after his demise. And they will then come successively, one after the other. When one passes away, another will take his place and continue the works, the good works which he had started. Now, to be able to know what a caliph does, we have to go to the verse in the Holy Quran, which is verse 56 of Surah An-Nur, which is chapter 24 of the Holy Quran, where the prophecy and promise of the caliphate is made by God himself. Now, I'm going to read just the translation just for the sake of time. He says, and this Allah speaking, God himself, that Allah has promised to those among you who believe and do good works, that he will surely make them successors or caliphs in the earth, as he made caliphs from those among the earth, from among those who were before them, and that he will surely establish for them their religion, which he has chosen for them, and that he will surely give them in exchange security after their fear. They will worship me, says God, and they will not associate anything with me. Then whoso is ungrateful after that, they will be the rebellious ones. Now, this here is the definition of the caliph. First of all, the caliph is a successor, because the word itself means a successor. And they come so that the religion which God has chosen is established. So that all their works will be to establish religion. And what is religion? Religion is learning to give God's rights to God and to pay due respect to the rights of our fellow beings. So we have to respect God and respect his creatures. So this is religion in a nutshell. And this is what they come to do. But also, the sign of their truth is that they bring security after the people had been in a state of fear. So this is also one thing which they're going to do. And God said, you have to be grateful to me, because this is a very big favor, in other words. So if you're ungrateful and you don't accept this caliph and his caliphate, the system which is brought with him, then you will be counted by me as ones who are rebellious towards God. So this is in a nutshell what a caliph is.
Now let's go quickly to the demise of the Holy Prophet Islam, may peace and blessings of Allah be on him, and the succession plan.
Yes.
There was absolute peace because the caliphs carried on with the true teachings and the character of the Holy Prophet of Islam. But after the caliphs, the four rightly guided caliphs, one expected to be a central, one expected to see that continuity carried through. But we have a lot of caliphs. Obviously, we will determine what constitutes a true caliph.
Yes.
And then zero in on the Ahmadiyya caliph.
Yes.
But what has gone wrong?
Well, you see, as God alluded to in this verse, He said that if you're ungrateful, then you will be counted as rebellious. But also He says that I give the caliphs only to those who believe and do good works. So if a time comes when the people are overwhelmingly evil, and they don't do good works, and they don't really believe in God, so they don't fear Him, they do whatever they please, God then withholds this blessing of caliphs from them. And this is exactly what we saw in the beginning of Islam. When the first caliphs took over after the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's demise, may peace and blessings of God be upon him, there was peace established. But entire nations were entering Islam at that time. They had not been trained by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in person. They had not. And they came with their own political feuds, their own evils, their own weaknesses. And some among these new nations tried to overthrow the caliphs, and they were successful because they were in very great numbers and their strength was great. So they managed to actually assassinate the last three caliphs of the beginning. And then after that, God withheld that favor of giving the rightly guided caliphs who are guided directly by God Himself. However, all throughout history of Islam, despite the fact that the Muslims were then deprived of this caliphate for a while, God continued to send saintly personages who were a kind of caliph in that they were continuing the works of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but not as elected caliphs who are following him one after the other. So this was broken. But the good news was that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that Allah already knows that this is going to happen. And He made the prophecy, and it's a well-known prophecy among the Muslims. Where,
Tell us that prophecy.
Yes, where He says that the prophethood will remain as long as God wishes, meaning His own prophethood, while He's alive, but then God will remove it, will take it up to Himself, will take it back to Himself. He says, then will come al-khilafatu ala minhaj an-nubuwwah. So it will be the caliphate which follows the precepts of prophethood, which follows the same way as prophethood. It's a continuation of that prophethood. He said that will remain for as long as Allah wishes, and then He will remove it. He said then there will come hereditary monarchies, where a father will be followed by his son, who will be followed by the grandson, and it will be something which will be biting. So they will not want to let go of their power. So these will take a political nature. So these He did not call caliphs. He said He called them monarchies. He said after that will come tyrannical leaders who will be very unjust and very overbearing. He said ثُمَّ تَكُونَ الْخِلَافَةُ عَلَى مِنْهَاجِ النُّبُوَّةِ. He said then the caliphate based on prophethood, following the precepts of prophethood, will come again. And he said then He became silent, meaning that would be the last thing to come. Now we saw the whole of the history of Islam was being depicted here. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away, he was followed by the rightly guided caliphs who were according to his own pattern of work, you see. But then they were removed. And then came the monarchies within Islam. We had the Abbasids. We had but so many, of these different monarchies who came one after the other. And they actually, were hereditary, so it was from father to son. And they did not have a religious bearing at all. But people called them caliphs. But these were not the caliphs which were meant by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Now, after they left the scene, we had the Ottoman Empire, which came into the fore. And this was a very tyrannical kind of empire, which extended all the way from North Africa right into Asia and parts of Europe as well. And they were very, very harsh with the people who were under their domination. So immediately after this thing ended, we see again the caliphate appearing. And this is the caliphate of the Ahmadiyya community, which was prophesied. But it could only come following a prophet. And so the promised Messiah was sent as a reflective prophet of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not an independent prophet, but one completely subservient to him and to his cause and to the Holy Quran and to Islam. So when he came, following him, then the Caliphate was re-established. And today we have arrived at number 5. It's the 5th Caliph now, who is our leader today.
Right. Now we will come...
So this is an amazing prophecy. Because remember, this was made by somebody 1,400 years ago. And he was talking about everything which was going to happen, the major events happening in Islam. Now, if he wasn't from God, how did he know that?
Right.
So this is in itself something which the viewers, I would request them to reflect upon.
Right. So these are questions I'll be asking you.
Yes.
He weren't coming from God. Now, the issue, once again, is that looking at caliphs, recent caliphs emerging here and there, you know, the nature of people who come out as caliphs seem to have reduced the sanctity of the word caliph. Because looking at the ISIS caliph, Abu Bakr Baghdadi,
Yes.
it took him just 4 months to declare himself caliph by the order of God, which seems that all Muslim nations should be subservient to his orders. Interestingly.
But we mustn't forget there's a rival caliph as well in the Boko Haram.
In Boko Haram.
Yes,
exactly.
which is closer to home for you.
My worry is the ideology of these caliphs.
Yes.
Looking at what the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be on him, preached vis-a-vis what these so-called caliphs are preaching. Where are we heading towards? Where are Muslims heading
You see,
towards?
the Muslims should reflect on the verse of the Quran. This is the word of God. They have unfortunately put it behind their backs. They are not reflecting on it. God is telling you, how do you recognize a true caliph? He says it will be a caliph, this will be a caliphate, or he will be a caliph who will exchange your security after their fear. So if you see a caliph coming in a place where there's security, and after he comes everybody is now in fear, then obviously that's not a caliph sent by God. But if on the other hand, there's a place where there was fear, and this caliph moves in and suddenly there's security and peace, then this is the one who's been sent by God. So the Quran is very, very clear. God says in the Quran that the right way has been made distinct from the evil way. It's very clear. So you have to see. Now, for example, look at the works that they're doing. One thing which I've been alluding to is the destruction which they're carrying out, which makes people flee. But on the other hand, they're destroying even the mosques and places of worship, churches and other places of worship of other people. So you see this caliph going around the world, in those parts of the world where he has influence, destroying churches, mosques and other places of worship, killing the people, slaughtering them, enslaving them in horrific ways. On the other hand, you have another caliph who's building mosques, who is helping. For example, just a few weeks before the attacks in Paris, our local mosque in Paris had organized a charity walk for the benefit of a Catholic church which needed repairs to be carried out, which were very expensive.
The local mosque of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community
in Paris, yes. They organized a charity walk to collect funds to repair a church. They did it. They walked around in the town and the people donated money and they gave that money to the church with those people as well, you see?
Let's try to solve this riddle.
Yeah.
Among non-Muslims, they are confused because these so-called caliphs quote from the Quran. That is the biggest irony, which confuses non-Muslims. If you say they are not leaders of Islam, why do they quote from the Quran? Which portions do they quote from the Quran?
You see, they are not taking anything properly from the Quran at all. As they say, the devil can quote scripture to serve his own purposes. And so he can do that. You can twist the words of God in a way to make them seem like this is what you have to do. But if you look at those verses that they use in context, you will see that they have totally destroyed the meaning of those verses. In the Quran, God is very clear. Muslims can only take up arms in defense. And only if they've been attacked first. This is the only way that they can take up weapons to do a battle. These people are going and killing people who have never done anything to them. They've never threatened them in any way. And the Quran says something else. It says you can only do it if they want to destroy Islam by the sword. If they want to kill off Islam, then you defend Islam by the sword. Are they destroying Islam today? Which nation on earth is out there to destroy Islam? Islam is an ideology. Can they destroy it now? They cannot. It's everywhere. They cannot destroy Islam. So they are not fighting against Islam. What is happening is there are some nations fighting against Muslim nations, yes. But that's always for political reasons, for economic reasons. It has nothing to do with religion. These people are really muddying the name of Islam. They're dirtying the name of Islam, by taking that holy name of Islam, which means peace and submission to the will of God, and they're saying that we're killing all these people in the name of Islam, in the name of God. They have no God. They have no religion. Terrorism has no religion. Whether it's Buddhist terrorists or Hindu terrorists or Christian terrorists or Muslim terrorists or Jewish terrorists, those people claim to be of those religions. They have nothing to do with those religions.
A Christian friend reading the Quran asked me a question yesterday that he's found out in the Quran a verse that says that if you kill one person, you have killed the whole of mankind.
Exactly.
And another verse enjoining Muslims,
and if you save one person, then it's like you've saved the whole of mankind.
Very good.
And also enjoining Muslims to protect the houses of worship of other people.
Other people, including Christians.
Exactly.
So why? So do you, by this, suspect that these caliphs have, political motives, maybe, behind what they do?
It's entirely political. It's all about power and money. This is all it is. And they are tricking innocent youths from the Muslims around the world, young women, young men, promising them, the re-establishment of the Caliphate and all this, the prophecy is now going to come true again. But they are calling them to hell. What they are calling to is the fire. And the Prophet of Islam warned Muslims against this. He said, there will be these people who will appear, and they will call you to, as if to goodness, but it will be to the gates of hell. So go away from those people. And he said, when you see this happening, he said, abandon all those different sects that you see around you, the sects of Islam. He said, and go and attach yourself to the Imam and his Jamaat. He said, the community and its Imam, you have to go to them. Now, the Caliph, who is the peace, the Caliph of peace, the Caliph who is helping people, people have to use their minds, See for yourself, what kind of Caliph would you like to have? Would you, for example, if you're a Christian, would you not like to have a Caliph who helps you to repair your churches? The Caliph who said, in Western nations, said, if your buildings are ever under attack, we Ahmadi Muslims will be the first ones to arrive there to defend them. Wouldn't you like to have a Caliph like that? So this is the kind of Caliph he is. If, for example, you don't have running water in your village somewhere, would you not like a Caliph to send a team to install pumps there for you?
That is what Ahmadiyya Caliph is doing.
Exactly. If you don't have electricity, would you not like this Caliph to send electricity for you? So this is what he's doing,
Let's quickly go to West Africa, Nigeria, Boko Haram. The ideology of the leader.
Yes.
He claims to represent Islam.
Well,
and then he says Boko Haram, Western education
is haram. Books are haram.
Forbidden. What does Islam say to that?
The Prophet of Islam said that the acquisition of knowledge is a duty, an obligation. Farida, it's an obligation upon every Muslim male and female. And he said you have to learn from the cot to the grave. You have to still learn. He said, if you need to get knowledge, go out and get it, even if you have to go to China to get it. Now, what kind of knowledge will you get in China? You will not get knowledge about Islam in China. You will get knowledge of the world. But he said, if you have to go for that, then go. Even up to China, which was at that point like the furthest point you could go in the world. So this is what the Prophet of Islam is telling us, on the one hand. And on the other hand, this Caliph, so-called Caliph of Boko Haram, is saying that education is forbidden, So people have to use their brains. Please, my plea to the Muslims is do not fall for their rhetoric. Their rhetoric has nothing to do with Islam. It's the contrary of Islam. If they use the name of Islam, it doesn't mean that's Islam. You have a brain, you can read, you can find out.
Based on that
so please make a difference between the real caliph and the false one.
Based on that warped ideology, they've been able to recruit innocent Muslims and non-Muslims to join their front. That is worrying.
Now the question is, why is it that we Ahmadi Muslims, who exist in 207 countries today, we have youth as well, we have young men and young women too, why is it that not a single Ahmadi youth, not even one, has been roped in by either Boko Haram or the Caliph of Baghdad? Why? You see, this is a question which has been asked many times. Even in the House of Lords in England here this year, this question was asked. That what can we do to stop these Muslim youth, to become radicalized and roped in by these people? So we told them that, look, our teaching, which is the true teaching of Islam, is of such a nature that people who are exposed to it, they can never be radicalized. When your motto is, books are haram, education is haram, we know where that's going to end up. But when your motto is love for all, hatred for none, and that a nation cannot be reformed before its youth is reformed. The nation can only be reformed if its youth is reformed. This is another of our mottos. When you have this kind of ideology working, then you know that the results are going to be very different. So people have to realize that when you're exposed to the teaching of this caliph, the caliph of goodness, the caliph of building bridges between different peoples, the caliph who protects the places of worship of others, the caliph who builds new mosques, that are beacons of light for all the peoples around. When you're exposed to his teaching, you can't be radicalized, So my message to the Muslim youth today, girls and boys, is join us. Join this caliph.
Right.
And then you will be safe from the radicalization, the dangers of radicalization.
The Ahmadiyya caliph is doing a lot, obviously. And the manifestations of some of the things that Ahmadis do are clear for all to see, project the true teachings of Islam. Yet, Ahmadis, the leadership of the Ahmadiyya community, is usually attacked. If you go to Pakistan and other places, Ahmadis are constantly being attacked. Why the situation, despite efforts they are making to project the true teachings and beauty of Islam?
This is also a political thing. The Muslims who follow the ideology of Wahhabism, the extreme Wahhabism which has been propagated by some Muslim countries, very rich ones, and who have been aided and abetted by certain superpowers as well, they have spread their poisonous teachings, which is a distortion of Islamic teaching, all over the Islamic world and in other countries where Muslims are living, even in the West. Now, those people, because they have violent ideology and they want to have power by force, they see us as a threat. Because if people become Ahmadi, then they can't be corrupted. They can't fall prey to their teaching. So they think we're in the way, in their way. We're like a thorn in their side. So they want to eliminate us. So they don't want people to become Ahmadi. So they demonize us, and they say to the Muslim, they say, these Ahmadis, they're not really Muslims, They're kafirs, they're disbelievers, don't go to them, don't listen to them, don't read their books, don't accept their invitations, don't even drink water in their homes. So to a large degree they have succeeded in alienating us and turning the Muslims against us. But now the tides are turning. Even in Pakistan, as we speak, public opinion is turning against all that. They are thoroughly fed up of the Talibanization of their society. The Wahhabism which has been spread all over, which has given birth to Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and now to ISIS as well. So they are rising up and they're saying that enough is enough, leave the Ahmadis alone. You might not agree with everything the Ahmadis say, but do we need to kill them because of that? Is that how we solve problems? By killing people? This is what these people who follow the extreme Wahhabism are advocating. You see? And now the Western governments are starting to wake up to this fact. Now they're getting very fearful of any link at all between Wahhabism and their Muslims in their own countries. So they're saying, you have to cut your links with these Wahhabis now. We don't want you to try and overthrow our governments because this is part of their ideology. Whereas Islam has no claim on land. The Prophet of Islam never came hungry for land. Had he been so, when the Meccans came to see him, the disbelievers who wanted him to stop preaching, they told him, we will give you the most beautiful girls of Arabia. We will make you so rich. We will make you our king. But please stop preaching against our idols. Stop saying there's only one God. And he said if he wanted land and riches, he would have accepted. That was the best opportunity. He'd say, yes, my mission is fulfilled. No. What did he say? He said, even if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I will not stop from preaching this truth that God is one. Mm-hmm. So I am not going to stop. And so they persecuted him terribly for so many years, you know. Had he wanted land, that was the time to do it. Mm-hmm. Now how can these people say they follow the Prophet of Islam? All they want is land. All they want is oil, gas, and other resources.
So, how do we change this misconception, huge misrepresentation of Islam?
By praying to God that God opens the hearts of people, by education, that is by speaking to people, by giving them books to read, by showing them programs, and by giving a good example. So our example is there for all to see. Our youth are going out all over the world, cleaning streets after there's devastation, like storms or floods or things. Helping people who've been who've fallen victim to these natural disasters, etc. Setting up medical camps for free for the people who don't have the means or the facilities at their disposal. Giving fresh water to people where they have no access. Giving electricity to them. Opening schools. How many hundreds of schools do we have all over the world? These are the ways that we can change this. So people have to stop listening to this anti-Ahmadiyya propaganda. Open their ears now and open their eyes and see what the Ahmadi Caliph is doing. As I said, the Quran said the good way has become very distinct from the evil way. So if you see somebody doing something the good way, you should run and join those people, because Allah says in the Quran, Kunu ma'as sadiqeen. You have to be with those who are truthful.
The Ahmadiyya Caliph has been at the forefront, going all over the world, preaching the message of peace, the true teachings of Islam, the beauty of Islam, and so on and so forth. What could be done to make him even more visible to many people across the world, so that they have access to the true teachings of Islam?
Well, we have to raise our voices. We have to, for example, this is one way, by having these programs to let people know, open their eyes. We have to reach out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And we have to, have programs where we can come together and talk about these different things. Governments should also offer us platforms so that we can actually reach the populations and tell them the true teachings of Islam. Many Muslim governments have been cruel towards us and towards their own people by not allowing Ahmadi Muslims a platform to give their message of peaceful Islam to their nations. Now they are paying the price for that. Instead of our message, it's the other message, the extreme forms of Islam which are coming in, which are not really Islam, they're distortions of Islam, I should say, which have filled in the vacuum. A vacuum is always filled. You can never have a state of vacuum which will not be filled.
I've just been told we are running out of time, so we want to thank you very much, Jahangir Khan, for throwing more light on the Caliphate in Islam. So till we come your way, same time next week from the beautiful studios of MTA International in London, may the peace and blessings of Allah be on us all. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.